Hello lovelies, I'm the Fragnostic. It's Saturday, and like a child who has selfishly abused a wish upon the monkey's paw to have Christmas come every week, so too am I summoned to you, an overworked, curmudgeonly Santa Claus bearing the festive cheer of another retro rumble. I have noted my lack of milk and cookies. My reindeer will be taking a terrible feculent revenge upon your chimney. Tonight, Crusaders, I bring before you a most curious specimen, an early Metroidvania hybrid, gnawing its way out of that particular womb long before either Super Metroid or Symphony of the Night came to be, set inside a ghoul-infested high school. All the sense in the world then that it would answer to the name of Ghoul School, developed by Imagineering and published by Electro Brain for the NES in the March of 1992. And this is one of those titles that did everything right on paper. The pedigree of the development team, the early utilization of modern survival horror mechanics, over 200 rooms to explore, screams the back of the game box. I mean, that's complete bullshit. There's about 60, including corridors, but like all the wild claims that got made on the back of video game boxes in those days, they just banked on making Ghoul School utterly unforgiving enough that you'd never live long enough to be able to call them out on it. But before I start jamming my finger in faces, screaming, "Liar! You lied to the people! Liar!" and hunting down now elderly and bewildered game developers like retired Nazi war criminals, kicking their doors down in front of a camera crew while they peer out, alone and afraid from behind their net curtains, let me clue you in on how this sucker operates. Status bar at the top of the screen tells you everything you need to know, your score, your health, the weapons and accessories you're rocking, and the room number that you're currently in, plus its name if it has one. Now you move through the halls, ducking from room to room, hunting down new items and ways to de-infest your beloved school from demons, with a view to eventually saving the unrequited love of your life, the head cheerleader sugar princess Samantha Pom Pom, from the clutches of King Cornea, the Ghoul Master. There you go, you're wondering why we were slowly and painfully bludgeoning giant walking eyeballs to death with a bat. They're the subjects of King Cornea. His grandfather drove anything that wasn't an eyeball out of his lands long ago. I understand that racial tensions have cooled slightly in recent decades, but I'd imagine there's still a good amount of prejudice towards any other facial feature that attempts to legally settle in Itopia. For example, they don't whip giant ears through the streets anymore screaming, "Sight power! Sight power!" But they still get the odd dirty look. Even though, I mean, you can't really tell. The eyes don't seem to have eyebrows or anything, so they've really only got the one expression. But I guess if the last 5 years have taught us anything, is that racism, prejudice, and privilege exist even where there is absolutely no evidence of it, because angry-looking vloggers track it down for the rest of us idiots, maybe using the thick-rimmed spectral vision glasses that they always seem to wear, like the special ones that Roddy Piper uses in They Live. On the outside, a normal-looking family bakery, but pop on the goggles and dear Christ, these buns are offensive to Malaysians somehow. Why, this is whitewashing for some reason. Here's my Patreon link. Feel free to fund my witch hunts. But look at me, I've gone off on a tangent about another genre of people that piss me off again. Instead of explaining the game to you, do forgive me. Let's get back on track here. So much of Ghoul School is optional. There's so little here that you actually need to pick up to finish it. In fact, if I wasn't trying to show you everything the game had to offer, I could be in and out of here without using any glitches in a little under 7 minutes. So long as you got the spring shoes, which we have now already, the suction shoes and the embalming fluid, you can make a straight dash for the exit with very little resistance indeed. Of course, your first time through Ghoul School, you don't know any of that. Fuck, unless you read the manual, you'll know and come to know precisely nothing. You'll know less than Jon Snow, and that man knows shit all so hard that he wound up accidentally fucking his aunt. Although, to be fair, if Amelia Clark was my aunt, I'd have a roll in the 7th circle of hell with that. I'd knock Khaleesi up with a two-faced baby, nephew or no. Goodness. But, no, Christ, read the goddamn manual. Some games, no outside swatting required. Like We'll be playing Contra for our Sanctuary Sunday feature tomorrow. That is a perfect example of something where you know everything you need to within about 20 seconds of hands-on action, but fucking GHOUL school. I struggled to think of a game up until that point that required you buy it boxed with the fucking manual. If you found this in one of those used loose cartridge bins that all those old independent video game stores seem to have and made the mistake of buying it, enjoy unraveling this bullshit. Maybe after that you can track down fucking Atlantis or decode the Easter Island Rongo language. My god, that's an irritating sound effect. So for starters, you'll never know the plot to GHOUL school. There's a plot to GHOUL school. Oh yeah. 10 fucking illustrated pages of it. See, before the terrible events you see before you, this place wasn't called GHOUL school. Oh no. That would really just be inviting exactly this kind of tragedy, wouldn't it? No, this place's real name is GHOUL school. I'm not joking. You have permission to track me down and put me out my fucking misery if my jokes ever get that bad. GHOUL school. Whoa, hey, Jesus Christ, dude. Sounds like somewhere MTV would send you for a weekend in the early 90s if you won a phoning competition. It doesn't actually mention just how cool GHOUL school was, but God, I can see it now. Teachers rollerblading through the halls, giving you high fives. Every textbook's got a picture of David Hasselhoff acting out some awful scenario loosely related to the subject at hand. For maths, he's on the beach with a bodacious babe on each arm and the division symbol printed on his bodgy smugglers. For home economics, I don't know, he's had some kind of terrible mental episode and he's got cocaine smeared around his nostrils, his mouth. He's fucking everywhere. He's not in his right mind. He's trying to force one of the women from the maths textbook into a pressure cooker while the other one's on the floor in the background trying to chew through her restraints, you know. Just cool stuff. Everybody has to wear sunglasses instead of actual food. You get served like Hot Pockets and Cheetos in the cafeteria because, whoa, radical assholes! Danzig's our geography teacher. You couldn't pay attention in class because of the constant pounding headaches from the malnutrition. Or when you accidentally cut yourself in woodshop, you didn't so much bleed as slowly leak a kind of caramelized red paste that stank like somebody had shit in a popcorn warmer. But hey, who wants to live past 21, my dude? Death is the bomb, bro. So yeah, GHOUL school. An insufferable place filled with walking stereotypes if your player character is anything to go by. You're called Spike O'Hara. Dear, because of his hair and stuff. Spike O'Hara. See, it's almost a joke. Somebody definitely made an attempt at one. Except, you know, he wouldn't have had spiky hair when he was born, so I'd be more inclined to blame his name on his mother's mescaline habit than anything else. Let's move on. So, according to the manual, Spike O'Hara is a try-hard little shit that walks home through the cemetery from school, and 2 days before Halloween, he finds an unearthed skull at the base of a grave. And rather than just respecting the dead's right to a bit of fucking dignity, Spike takes the skull to show his biology teacher, Dr. Fema, who asks to keep the skull to study it. Now in reality, you know, he's probably doing everything he can here to try and temper Spike's revoltingly morbid curiosities. I mean, if you were a teacher and one of your students dresses like he's in danger of throwing a trench coat on and rolling up to school with the same semi-automatic that his dad chases him around the fucking house with any day now, and he hands you some of a dead body he says he just found in a cemetery, you know, where dead bodies live, you're not gonna yell at him, are you? Not if you don't want to be the first room he visits with his jackboots and sawn off. You're gonna calmly empathize, get the damn head away from him however you can, and quietly alert the authorities when he's wandered off to sniff glue or torture cats. So now the skull's in the school, sends out a message to the realm of the dead to come and invade. But why did it wait until it was in the school to do that? I don't fucking know. Maybe it hates cool. Maybe it's the skull of the uncoolest man who ever lived, and his hatred of popular culture followed him even to the grave and beyond. Maybe he slipped and broke his neck on a stray skateboard or got mauled to death by a jungle cat that looked like Chester Cheetah, dope shades and all. I couldn't tell you. For 10 pages of plot, the manual skips over a lot of this kind of shit. Like, around the same time, Spike's supposed to be moping around because he hasn't got anybody to take to the Halloween dance. I guess because none of the girls at Cool School are down with a romantic evening of being finger banged against a dumpster at a 7-Eleven and trying to knock baby birds out of their nests with a crossbow. Spike really wants to take Samantha Pom Pom, the cheerleader we're trying to save, but of course, she's already got a date with a mystery man called Frank. That turns out to be Frankenstein's monster who ends up kidnapping her. Once again, I'm not fucking kidding. I couldn't anymore if I wanted to. This story has a way of kind of beating the humour out of you, one god-awful joke at a time. And I mean, you'd really expect Frankenstein's monster to be in the game itself as a boss then, wouldn't you? Surely. Well, he's not. You can fight Frankenstein's monsters, the green gym bros who look like the kids of the Jolly Green Giant, but the giant classic Frankie from the manual is nowhere to be seen. Everything else under the goddamn sun is. You got giant eyeballs, tiny eyeballs, wrench-hurling chimpanzees, bats, ghosts, potted plants, living intestines, sentient basketballs, skeletons, floating spinal columns. You might have seen it while we were in the gym actually. There's a dead body that's lying just under the pommel horse. And it doesn't move or attack you or anything, but if you touch it, you die. What a great enemy. What a crucial soldier to bring from the realm of the dead in your war against mankind. A dead body that kills anybody stupid enough to try what, jump on it? Dance with it? Jesus Christ, you're doing us a favour killing off anybody with that kind of shit wrong with them. Here's the digester ray. Supposed to be a step up from that noisy piece of dog shit, the Deweytron, and well, aesthetically speaking, anything's a step up from the goddamn Deweytron, but the weapon system in this game will drive you fucking ballistic at some points. I mean, you saw when we started the game, didn't you? Starts you off with a bat. I always thought it was a ruler, myself. It looks like a ruler. It deals damage like a ruler. I thought that was why everything was taking 3.5 minutes to kill, because you're tapping it unconscious with fucking stationary. And your first upgrade to a baseball bat is a wet towel. The wet towel does more damage, marginally more damage, but more damage, nonetheless, than the baseball bat. The fuck's it wet with? Hydra venom? Then we grabbed the Deweytron, the game's first ranged weapon. And if you're wondering why there's Martian grade firearms lying around in a school, then should have read the manual. Didn't I tell you to read the manual 100 damn times, son? What, you think you're better than the rest of us? Is that it? Our health's in the shit tip here, and the only way to pull your life bar out of that one is to visit these classrooms and fight your way to the apple pickups at the back. There we go. That should just about replace the health you lost fighting your way down to it from the first few times you play. There is one very special golden apple you can grab as well. We'll be heading upstairs to the cafeteria very shortly to get ourselves a little of that sweet ass, which will not only refill your life bar, but also permanently reduce any damage you take by half. Really, it'd be more useful to try and work your way up to it earlier rather than later here, seeing as we're already over halfway done with most of the errands we need to run in the main school building. But before we climb up that way, we're gonna go to the principal's office, beat the shit out of Death, and take his scythe away from him. Oh, her, excuse me, Death. Death is a woman according to the game manual. No strong roles for women in gaming, you say? Get the fuck out of here. For Christ only knows what reason, Death goes down a lot faster to the digester ray. I always thought this piece of shit was firing eggs when I was younger, and Death had some sort of dairy allergy, but there. Of course Death has a ghost that floats up to heaven. Don't let her in, for fuck's sake. As you can see, this isn't actually a scythe at all. It's a rather puny looking sickle. The Grim Reaper must have left her proper soul shearing equipment back on the bus or something. Now there's a bewildered pensioner in her late 60s wandering around Massachusetts wielding the power to undo creation itself, but the sickle is dead useful for taking down the angry sunflowers that lurk up in the chemistry lab. But why does Death hate eggs? Because eggs are like the beginning of life, or shit, maybe that's it. That's profound as fuck. Alright, check this out. Impossible to get through this corridor. You just get bum rushed by those green motherfuckers and you can't fight back, so I'm going to show you a little trick. Jump into a locker, select the bat and the sneakers from your inventory here, and now, for God only knows what reason, you barely fucking exist anymore. Don't mind me, boys. I'm one of you sons of bitches now. Spike O'Hara. Cautionary tale of what happens if you keep slouching up against the walls. School will fucking eat you. I promise I'll turn back and stop ruining the game just as soon as we come back this way. We're grabbing the golden apple from the cafeteria very quickly first here, as well as the sandwich we just got there. Of course the sandwich is more powerful than an antimatter spectral assault rifle. Haven't you never thrown a sandwich at someone? Mayonnaise in their eyes, crumbs in their ears, god damn it. Makes a dramatic statement too. Don't underestimate the psychology of the attack. You remember that War of the Worlds remake where Tom Cruise holds a peanut butter sandwich at the wall because he's angry about aliens or some shit? Wasn't that a powerful scene? Wasn't your reaction to that anything besides spontaneous mockery of Tom Cruise's sandwich tantrum? So yeah, you can do this with absolutely any locker in the game with, as far as I can tell, no ill repercussions. I mean, I've never tried to get to the end of Ghoul School with the bug active or anything. Maybe it crashes and melts your NES while an 8-bit rendering of the developer's gaping arsehole shits out the words "Fuck you, cheater!" onto the screen, but you're able to pull it off just as soon as you got a second item and a weapon to switch back and forth to on your inventory screen. And I mean, it's incredibly strange for maybe no greater reason than the lockers in this game are otherwise entirely useless. Like, my initial tactic to get through that corridor was to maybe duck into the lockers to hide from the Frankenstein's mini-monsters that charge you down, because they really are on top of you too fast to do anything about it, and they take such a ludicrous amount of health away from you. You can't just duck in and out of the rooms or the side of the screen to beat them either, because their hit points reset every time you leave and re-enter. But the lockers do nothing. They know you're in there. The fuckers will just swarm around outside until you give in, accept your fate, and come out to get your legs broken. And you think, well, there's got to be something about this shit in the manual, hasn't there? Well, you're right, but all it says is that the lockers are a thing, and that Spike can climb into them. It doesn't tell you why in the name of God you'd want to do that, other than, and I'm semi-quoting here, that Spike used to love pushing freshmen into lockers, and now he can do it to himself. Like, he has literally lost his fucking mind from the terror around him, and now he just ekes out the rest of his short existence by hurling himself headfirst into metal doors until he attracts the attention of one of the flesh-eating abominations stalking the halls to come and finish the job that his broken psyche has started. Well, we're off to grab the embalming fluid now. Last weapon we want before we can make a beeline for the end of the game. Oh, never told you why there's a bunch of anti-ghost space-age weaponry lying around, did I? Nor will I! Read the fucking manual! Told you 100 times! No, well, it's fine. So, and this is another paragraph in the sheer odyssey that makes up Ghoul School's storyline. Before Spike entered the school to rescue the cheerleader that doesn't give a shit about him or his human skull fragment collection, a team of Ghostbuster rip-offs called the Spirit Ridders Task Force arrived on the scene to exterminate the invading demonic army, but as I'm sure you can imagine, things did not go particularly well for them. These little bastards fuck me dead. Just look at them. They never leave you alone. They never ever go the fuck away. The only way you're escaping taking any damage from them is to hop forward and backwards over them, crawling, absolutely crawling down the fucking corridor. Because Spike has no way to crouch, if they're just on open flat ground, you have to wait until you get hold of the embalming fluid to have a chance at hitting them. And even then, you have to be precise to within a split second to actually do it, because they come at you so goddamn fast. That's the janitor down there. Don't attack him and he won't bother you. The man loves his work, what can I say? One in the back, freak! That greatly upsets his pet Quaver, setting up an awkward sort of battle where you can't quite hit him and he can't quite hit you unless you jump onto the blackboard. I don't even know at this point, this game is a tactical fucking nightmare. And now we can prune some enormous flowers, surely the titular boy named Sue of King Cornea's forces. If you're a giant pink flower in whatever maddening hell these monsters come from, I'd imagine you've got to go to some pretty extreme lengths to prove that you're worthy of haunting anything more worthy than a fucking wedding. I bet at least one brazen demon has lost a mouthful of bollocks to complimenting their pretty petals. One feature I really do rate about Ghoul's School, and the combat might be a logistical fucking Rubik's Cube at times, but at least there's no infinite respawn when you're in and out of the same areas. Death means something in this game. You kill something, god damn it, you own that shit. You live with that kill on your conscience, the way it's meant to be. Even Metal Gear Solid, with all of its horrors of war theming, didn't matter how many necks you snapped, you weren't gonna kill the whole army. There was always more uniformed mooks to chase you about for being shit at stealth. But here, this is it. This is the whole damn village. You're a one-man ethnic cleansing squad right here. There are definitely a ton of good individual ideas here that never really gel properly. No less than you'd expect from David Crane, the designer of the original Pitfall games and programmer on some of the early Atari classics like Outlaw and Canyon Bomber, plus Gary Kitchen, who created the legendary Game Maker for the Commodore 64 and the Apple II, which was really the first professional level game design software to come out to the general public back in the mid-80s. Those two gentlemen got together to form Absolute Entertainment and their in-house development division Imagineering, but their output never quite managed to bob above sheer mediocrity for some reason, the best of their titles probably being A Boy and His Blob for the NES. Their general level being those infuriatingly bland Simpsons games that were on the same system, like Bart vs. the Space Mutants, Bart vs. the World, and Escape from Camp Deadly on the Game Boy. Nobody remembers Escape from Camp Deadly, but I do. Imagineering, I fucking do. It was impossible to get a good Simpsons game on consoles back then, swear to God. We all played Konami's amazing Simpsons arcade game, desperately wanted it at home, but all we got for years were a bunch of bullshit side-scrollers starring Bart Fuckface Simpson. Alright, use the spinal zap on the giant floating spine, that's not the densest of Ghoul School's riddles there, and you'll get access to the elevator. Now, to get out the school and up onto the roof, you have to hold up and keep holding it, and eventually it will move up past the 4th floor and get you where you need to go. These jumps across the gaps here are just about. You made that shit by like a pixel. This is even worse, you gotta take a hit to... Oh, fuck me dead, first time. That's usually an utter ordeal trying to get the suction cups to stick to the wire there. There's a giant skull to kill here that can be a pain in the dick as well. Fuck you! Fuck you and die in agony. Ghoul School's being very kind to me today, lovelies. That thing's hitbox just doesn't exist sometimes. You'll be leaping around for 5 minutes trying to get anything at all to hurt it. Alright, another tricky jump coming up here. We've got to get to that upside down door on the ceiling, but it's not so simple as just walking through it. Get the suction cups on. This bit's simple, but you got to kind of walk into it and hit up just as you fall into the ground. Haha! The video's not going to be an hour of me swearing at a ceiling. Hooray. Straightforward trek through the air ducts of the school before we hit the final area now. Like a number of titles at the time, Ghoul School was made with the ambitious hope of selling a shed load of merchandise and wrangling up its own Saturday morning kids show. Scott Marshall, the lead programmer, said that he based the game's initial play model on The Legend of Zelda 2 and was shooting for a Game Boy release that got a leg up on the strength of its initial concept to an NES showing. Ghoul School was initially meant to be a few shades darker than the somewhat goofy experience it finished up as. Marshall apparently envisioned a school full of zombies that were rising from their graves, and it was only when he found himself severely stretched for time that Absolute Entertainment stepped in and offered some assistance with the enemy design and implementation, and the next time Marshall looked over his shoulder to see how that was going, he found that there were giant walking fucking eyeballs running around the place instead of the zombies that he'd originally wanted. Absolute apparently kiddified more than a few elements of the game. Spike's health meter wasn't health at all to begin with. It was actually a gangrene meter that slowly zombified you the more you were touched, but that got the chuck, and Actually, the most notable change they made was that Spike was originally meant to be black. But Absolute allegedly told Marshall that no white kid would want to play a black character. And I mean, you think that with a company formed by two men that worked on early Atari titles, at least one of them would remember playing as the black guy in basketball back in 1979, but it's an attitude that kind of plagued games up until the late-ish 90s. Unless you were a celebrity, of course. In fact, Jesus Christ, please tell me I'm wrong here, please tell me I'm wrong, but if you don't count Michael Jackson and his obviously safe white appearance in the Moonwalker games, was the first clearly defined playable black protagonist in gaming Shaquille O'Neal and fucking Shaq Fu? Please don't let that be true. For the love of God. Oh, no, thank God. Cyborg on Commodore 64, 1987. I'm no white apologist, don't get me wrong, but that was nearly inexcusable. Right, here you go. Ghoul School's ultimate weapon, the Gamma Gun. Will mince the utter bejesus out of anything you point it at, which doesn't amount to much, admittedly, at this point in the game. We're very, very nearly done now. A couple of minutes away from King Cornea himself. Once we get out of this fucking maze. I do hope I've remembered this right. I was repeating the directions like a fucking mantra to myself before I started recording this. If we get lost, you're stuck in here for literally weeks, so oh fuck. Right, it's gotta be this way. Definitely got to be this way. Get out of it. That's the one. Right, we're on the right track now. This incredibly aggravating labyrinth was actually another of Absolute's fuck-ups because they refused to let children, you know, their target audience, the market they castrated and whitewashed the game for, refused to let children playtest Ghoul School, which was a mistake because one of the things that kids would have told them is that wandering around in a ventilation maze with two goddamn colours while a 10-second music loop chews through your brain in the background is utter bullshit. Not far now until we get our Samantha Pom-Pom back. The original damsel in distress for this game was going to be the principal, which they were going to call the Princessapal. So, yeah, not everything that got cut was 24 karat gold, was it? Before we get to her, and indeed the final boss, we got to tangle with Admiral Aorta, big old floating heart, whose only vulnerability appears to be the embalming fluid. You just gotta kind of edge backwards and forwards, pelting him with this shit. Christ's sake. I mean, you don't have to, you can walk straight through the door, but I feel like I owe you something for fucking around with a locker glitch earlier. Come on. Embalm! There we go. If Shaquille O'Neal ever needs a heart transplant, we got him covered now, don't we? Alrighty! King Cornea is a piece of piss. Appalling. Now, don't run straight over to Samantha. If you touch that electric force field over her without embalming it first, that's instant death for you. Hooray! Hurrah! The day is saved. This ending is the best part of the whole thing. You'll see it if it ever stops adding my score up here. Yes, I know, I'm amazing. Don't give a shit, it's the last screen of the game. Add it up in your own time. I need to take a dump. So, Ghoul School is once again Cool School, exorcised of the curse that uncooled it. If you're rolling around on the ground having an epileptic seizure right now, my sympathies are with you. But check this out. Could it be? Is true love finally... Ah! She still ain't interested in you, you gerbil murdering, Kerrang buying motherfucker. She don't owe you shit. And now the two of you stand and watch all your dead friends float off to the pearly gates. None of them are getting in. Let's see how cool you feel when St. Peter sends you to hell for listening to Lenny Kravitz, you fucking heretic. Ghoul School Crusaders. Solid premise, botch your execution, the Mary Queen of Scots. Join me here next weekend, lovelies. We're going after the blood of a game that I originally wanted to run on Lovecraft Week, but thanks to technical issues, temporarily earned itself a governor's call. But its hour draws nigh, and it shall meet its end with the quiet dignity that only the grandfather of modern survival horror could conjure. For next Saturday, we find ourselves very much alone in the dark.